Today we are driving for you the, so to speak, the Turkish VW ID7 or the Turkish Mercedes CLA. This one here is the Togg T10F, their sedan or fastback, as the name F says. Then last time we have been checking out their SUV model. Today it's about the low seating model, and let's see what it can do. What about the price, what about the range, battery and so on. Everything you need to know with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go! And also, of course, best greetings to the Turkish community. Merhaba, nasılsınız? So yeah, where I grew up, there's a huge Turkish community, so I love çiğ köfte, by the way, just to mention that. Then here, let's check out the front. This one here all the way closed in, high gloss black. We also have the special Meridian blue color. This is named after a city in Turkey as well. And they also use this tulip symbol here. Tulip is also like a big symbol in Turkey, and they use it actually in different parts of the vehicle and here in the logo as well. Then most special thing here is the side profile with a length of 4 meters 83 or 190 inches. And then here this fastback or sedan style, low in comparison to the SUV and really stretched here, accentuated hip area, and we have 19-inch wheels on that vehicle. You see some damages already from some test drives, so some customers weren't that careful, obviously. And you can also see that today we have this this wrap here because they are doing these test drives event. They want to get a little bit more famous in different countries, especially now in Germany, and that's why they do this pop-up test drives things, that they get in contact with potentially new customers. Then let's follow it through the rear. You either have rear-wheel drive as an entry-level version, then you have acceleration figures under 8 seconds, or this one here is the top all-wheel drive model, and around 4 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. So to speak, this is a performance sedan. Let's go. What about that? You know, it doesn't look like that maybe, but at 4.1 seconds, that's extremely quick. And this one here, in contrast to the SUV model, also has a more flexible all-wheel drive distribution, for example. It's also an interesting aspect. But overall, very clean look. Also, the lights repair goes all the way through. And 4 more things in here than the exact model description. And T10F, once again the F for fastback, and the X T10X is the one for the SUV model. Battery and charging here. Charging for the big battery is 11 or 22 kilowatt AC, DC 180 kilowatt peak, and they have the official figure of 20 to 80% in 28 minutes. So 10 to 80% is then over half an hour. And the battery capacity is either 52 kilowatt hours or the other 88 kilowatt hours. And that's what we also see here. We are soon going to measure the trunk for you, just that you get like a first glimpse of that already here. This one here does indeed open like a fastback, so no separate closed small sedan trunk. This one you can basically use like an estate then, from the practicability sense. Does it have a frunk or not? Let's find out. In the front. So there we go. Tell me what you think about the design in the comments, and then let's check it out. So yeah, very rare of course that Turkey now has a car manufacturer. That's why many are also very proud of that. Doesn't have a frunk, so here all the other stuff is being located, and 12-volt battery, for example, the small low voltage one. They also say, by the way, it's interesting technology aspect, that here, as soon as you enter the car, the high voltage battery is being booted much earlier than in the SUV, and that's why it's also statically rather running on the high voltage battery, and that probably would also save some of the 12-volt battery here. Also very interesting aspect, isn't it? Then let's get to the interior. So we have this key fob here, and then we have the door handles flush in the integration. They don't pop out, but you pop them out yourself. And I mean, that's actually good because you can always grab them, you know, and then they're actually manual, and yeah, that feels actually quite good. Then door closing sound, that's a solid sound indeed. Then here, also a solid sound indeed. So let's see about the inside of the door. So the top part here is somewhat soft touch. Here also leatherette, also a little bit softer for your elbow. Classic controls for the windows. Side mirrors not controlled here. This one here is hardback, so this could maybe use some soft touch, and also hardback at the inside of the doors. Option here, the top trim, Meridian sound system, 12 speakers, and this is also the top trim, entry-level badge from Togg. And the steering wheel, you can all actually see that this is all-wheel drive model, because the all-wheel drive model gets the perforation at the steering wheel here. Very interesting. This is also a soft touch leatherette, also like when you press it in, like dampen underneath. Here I would wish for real buttons. This does give a feedback, but these are like these capacitive fields. Then the seats, this is the highest trim, light leatherette, and the base would be fabric seat. The mid trim would be fabric and leatherette mix. Probably I would also go for the fabric leatherette mix. And this then here, if you rather want to have the solution where I can easily wipe it clean and so on. It's soft, but I've seen better materials as for the leatherette quality. So probably here I would go for the fabric leatherette mix seat then. In this, you know, it would be standard for the highest trim, and this one here is only an option then for the highest trim. Steering wheel, manual, up and down, in and out, so you could also find a good solution right there. And classic controls, for example, for the wipers and the indicators and so on. And the right side, this one is actually for the cruise control. So seating position, of course, the difference is that in the SUV you sit higher, here you sit lower, but you don't sit too low. And I have to say, I mean, this is the electric platform here, and usually we have the problem in these sedans that the floor is very high. However, you maybe also saw that from the outside. Maybe it already goes a little bit in the crossover direction. And the advantage for that is that my feet are not too high. You know what I mean? So it doesn't build up too high from the lower ground. That's why the seating position is then still fine, although it's a sedan. Togg does have interesting cockpit solutions here. So what do I mean by that? We have digital instruments and then 29-inch screen here from left to right all the way. And then you have an additional screen here in the lower part where you, for example, also rest your hand here, and then you can control some apps here. They don't have Apple CarPlay and Auto because they say they want to build their own infrastructure. Tesla thinks the same way, but customers rather want Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, honestly. Here in the lower part, you can also control the climate unit. I do prefer physical climate unit, but at least it's like easy to access then here, the climate unit in the lower part. Also steering wheel heating, seat heating, for example, is also available. In the top part, it's of course also a touchscreen then here. This is also the inbuilt map, for example. And this one here is, by the way, a soft touch leatherette. It's also nice with the contour stitches. Then we have the glove box, which is actually quite spacious. And then they have still like a middle controller here in the normal like usage. This is like also volume, like volume up, volume down. But you can also use it then when you press it and here to control something in the main infotainment unit, so that you don't have to reach over there. So multiple ways to control this actually. To put in the gears, park is on the side, and then here you rest your hand here, and then you pull down for drive, pull forward for reverse, and park again on the left. And here in the very top, or in the front, this one here, or these ones here are separate buttons, and when you press and hold them, then it switches that you can select the driving modes, and in normal usage, when you only do left and right, then I can control more recuperation or less recuperation. And if I hold just the right one or hold just the left one, then I switch to, do I want one pedal driving come to stop, or do I want that the car is starting to creep again as soon as I lift the brake? So these are some hidden functions. You just have to know them once, and then you could also quickly change them, for example, even basically while driving. Cup holders, they are not adaptive, sadly, so there's a little bit open area then there. It's also pretty small. Here then could be a little bit softer for your elbow, and then lifting this one up, there's one small space underneath and more there. 2 USB-C chargers are there, and this is actually quite cool. This is also cooled. That was a good one, right? And I'm not sure. Some manufacturers are saving that function now. There are less and less small cubby holes here in the middle armrest, which can also be cooled. So at least they thought about it. The rest of the area is here actually quite open. So that's also interesting. And in the digital instruments, they you know, they blend over a little bit with the rest, but it's a separate screen. But at least you only have the black bezels here and here, and not on top on the lower part and so on, because, you know, like the German manufacturers, they like to use black bezels here at this moment. In this trim especially, what I like is that you have a very bright atmosphere here in the whole interior. Now to the rear, first of all, the doors here on the rear, these are all hardback in the top part, so there you can see some of the cost saving measures here as well. Then this is a difference to the SUV, because in the SUV, in the rear you sit more comfortable, especially as a tall adult. Here you can see there's not much space, so when tall adult is driving right here, legroom wise, and you can see then again the problem of sedan plus electric. Here the floor is very high. You don't feel it so much in the front, but in the rear you do feel it, and then the knees are pretty high. This would then be better in the SUV version, and yeah, like the Mercedes CLA has basically the same problem. And then here headroom wise it still somewhat fits. This glass roof here, by the way, you don't have to get it. So it depends on the version. Standard, like the low trim version, would not have it. And then option, you can get this glass roof. It has like a heat filtering, yes, but there's no shade or so that you can apply. And then you can fold on this. Couples are not adaptive though. There we go. And I mean, the material is soft, Isofix in the outside each, but somewhat limited for tall adults, more like children, Isofix and so on. Now to the trunk or the boot, around 500 liters, and you can see here this fastback opening. That's where you can easily access it, and then also underneath it fits even and very well 1 meters in the width of 40 inches. And hey, that's actually the normal length is already 1 meters and 15 or 44 inches, so that's actually quite cool. Then we have the charging cable, like small storage right there, because you also don't have a trunk. That's good to have. And for the height and the total length, gotta de-install that one here. There we go. No, that wasn't too hard. There's no remote unlock or something, so I have to go around then to fold the seats. So there we go. This is like a, you see that, like the button, how there's like a button you have to press in there. That's not the most practical solution, definitely. And then we can measure the full length here on Autogefühl. So there we go. This is like 1 meters 88 or 74 inches. So pretty good in length. And then here the maximum height here is 27 inches, 68 centimeters. Yeah, maybe it will rather play a role how it is here, right in the middle part. And yeah, here until the cover, it's about like 40 centimeters, 16 inches, about that. But overall, very well usable, and that you have like this very good access. German Autobahn Sport mode. Whew, that was 80 to 120 in like, plop. That's it. So yeah, as I said, it's a performance car, although it doesn't look like it. And yeah, very sensitive then here from the throttle pedal. And this is the sign that we can go to unlimited speed from 120. Let's go. And top speed is reached. That went quick. Now it's very loud. Yeah, this is super loud indeed. So that's not like set up to do that, actually. Suspension is still calm, no problem. Let's see what's 150 is fine. Yeah, let's see what's like pleasant traveling speed. Yeah, 120 kilometers an hour, like 70 miles an hour, I would say. This is fine. There's no insulation here or something like that. Like the lamination is just a normal window. That's it. So here at 120 kilometers an hour, 70 miles an hour, that's fine. It's quite windy outside today as well. But I mean, not the most silent on the motorway, gotta say that, but let's say silent enough for the normal traveling speeds. And here in the sport mode, the sensitivity from the throttle pedal, it's quite sensitive, you know, so you can also then go back to the normal comfort mode. It's a little bit less sensitive, and lane change here at 120 kilometers an hour was fine. Suspension is not making big of a fuss or something. We can also get off here, show you some of the driving situation right there. So let's see about that. Here now on the brakes. It handles well, you know, so handles quite well. There, you know, like the assistance systems and the lane keeping assists. So I would probably deactivate them. I can also easily do that here, in the instruments, so that's actually possible. And you can also see here we have the map now full screen. Wow, that's something, right? Let's do another acceleration from 30. Let's go. And that's 130. Wow, that was 30 to 130. Crazy. Yeah, this is a performance machine. I mean, once again, in Germany we would say der Wolf im Schafspelz, what literally means like the wolves in a sheepskin. Yeah, and that's that Cupra as well, probably. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, here at 130 kilometers now, I think it could be a little bit more silent. Yeah, like towards 80 miles an hour. But performance, I mean, you probably don't even need the all-wheel drive model because it's kind of like too quick. I mean, it even triggers the Lear meter, and not many cars do that anymore because Lear has meanwhile also experienced so crazy acceleration, you know, and so on. Yeah, they can once again. Wow, that is something to watch the GPS while driving. Yeah, wow, that is the car internal GPS, by the way. You know, because they don't do Apple CarPlay, Android Auto connection, which I do criticize. You know, that's not that good. About the like beeping noises, assistant stuff, and so on, it's always good when you have assistant on board there. But you can control it in the lower screen and then go there.
And then warning things can you turn
at least you can turn them off. Like with you have to go in the menu there a little bit deeper, but then you can turn all of these warning stuff off quite quickly. Yeah, probably you would rather not drive this one in sport mode because the throttle pedal is so sensitive that it goes like performance then and off. Let's do one more lane change here. I think the suspension is behaving quite well, you know, so it has enough comfort, but it also doesn't shake up at all. So here on the German Autobahn, I mean, performance in the like going front and back sense is there. Also nice to control. The steering feel is good. Suspension also has a very good comfort, sporty setting that they find like the good average. Yeah, the only thing I would wish for is better noise insulation. And if I remember correctly, I think it was a little bit better in the SUV. As far as I remember, I'm not quite sure. Maybe I have to check the video myself again. Yeah, but so like the noise insulation, that could have been a little bit better. And other than that, I would say it's from how the car behaves and so on, also full Autobahn proof. And some city driving here. We start city driving on some cobblestones. So far, that feels actually quite good. What I gotta say though, soon, you know, when we're still like slow, here the rear view camera, the quality that needs some fixing definitely, but it's, you know, not a good resolution indeed. And then let's here drive over some more cobblestones. There we go. 19-inch wheels we have here. There's just one basic suspension, and so far that's quite okay. Looking forward to the setup and also here how that then feels then inside the city. And it is already, let's say, not a small car, but at least it doesn't feel large. Let's take it that way. And that's, of course, with the electric vehicles, they always drive very smooth. Oh, that got some fire. Whoa. Seen that?
That's a Berlin thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's a Berlin thing, definitely. Yeah, I see here these systems from the new manufacturers. They are usually quite strict when you haven't deactivated them yet. So they always give like some attention warnings and so on. So here I'm also sometimes deliberately going through some manhole covers. These are not too bad, so that's fine here so far. I'm starting in normal driving mode. I'm going some left-right. There's a good precise input, that steering actually. And you know, I can do this special trick here with holding these two buttons and then switch the driving mode. But yeah, in that case here, the GPS is actually like the symbol of the GPS where to turn next is blocking exactly that area where I would usually control then the driving mode, like the sport mode and so on. So I wonder how they want to solve that one. Maybe I think it should then maybe disappear or something like that. Well, as also in the city, you have to be very gentle with the throttle. You've seen it earlier with our acceleration. This is, I mean, it really doesn't look like it, neither from the outside nor from the inside. it doesn't feel like it when you start driving, but just from the acceleration, it's definitely a performance car. So yeah, have to bear that in mind. Here in the city, from noise volume, it's actually quite okay. So that's fine that you don't hear too much what's going on around you. Let's try it again with the driving modes here. Let's see, does it work now? I think it probably... yeah. So I do see that I have a red background below that. So that's the thing I see now. And yeah, for example, in the sport mode, the steering has a little bit more resistance. It's not too much of a difference, and the throttle input is actually different. Yeah, but not a super large difference, because when you pin it down, then you would still have the same acceleration power. Then you can also go back to the other modes, and I can only recognize them by the colors here at this point. So indeed, it feels smaller than it actually is, and this smooth EV driving experience helps with that, definitely. So also like the braking process is actually smooth. What I can better see is here when I change the recuperation modes, for example, you know. So this is easily done also while driving with these forward controls. And also how to change the volume and so on. I can look straight and then change the volume here, for example. Let's see, when I have a pretty high battery status at the moment. That's why the recuperation is not the strongest, but you do feel a difference here that when I'm just leaving the throttle, then it's really hard recuperation in the level 3, and it's a little bit easier than when I set it below. So I often just drive with some slight recuperation, and that's it in a tunnel, and also cobblestones. So tunnel and cobblestone combination here, so good test, but I think does it quite well so far over the cobblestones. So it's also a comfortable ride then here in city driving, smooth and calm, I would describe it. Yeah, I'm not very happy with the leatherette seating material, so we know that there are softer materials there. Meanwhile, so I would probably then pick a version with the fabric on the middle. That should also give you some more comfort, because the base ergonomics of the seats, they are actually quite good. So that is always a very interesting thing to find out when we drive the vehicles, and then we can also give you tips how to maybe configure it. Yeah, some slight recuperation I think is good in the city, and then you can, you know, use more over the brake pedal if you need it. Of course, there's always the recuperation first, and only if you really need the friction brakes, then they would actually be activated. Leah also fine and smooth here in city driving. Also always interesting to talk to the passengers, because some cars drive smoother than the others and so on. The overview, well, to the rear it's somewhat limited. There, of course, the SUV is better, but to the sides is actually fine, and this light atmosphere in the car also helps to keep the mood up high. And consumption, the economy and real-world range, we did the test. German Autobahn, all the way flat, 100 kilometers an hour, consumes 21 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers, 3 miles per kilowatt hour. For the big battery here, the 88 kilowatt hour battery, that would mean a real-world range at that speed of 420 kilometers or 260 miles. Then at 130 kilometers an hour, which is also very realistic average speed then here on the German Autobahn, there we were at 25 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers, 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, would mean at that speed for that big battery is a range of 350 kilometers an hour, of 350 kilometers or 220 miles. Temperature around 20 degrees Celsius, so around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So that shows it's not the most efficient one. The strength of this car is actually that it offers everything, the whole package, for actually a very decent price. So it's about the price performance. And what about the price? Yes, we have seen in some details, especially like in the interior build quality, that there, for example, Mercedes and Volkswagen do offer more, and they also offer more options. For example, also like VW with the adaptive suspension. Mercedes, of course, has more things playing and going around on the interior and so on. Then again, the offering of space here is very decent. And of course, the price is way lower. It starts already below 50,000 euros, but even if you go for the bigger battery And the all-wheel drive version, as it stands right now, fully spec'd to the max, around 50,000 euros. That's of course very attractive. So far they do not offer leasing, so that's of course a very important thing then for especially for business customers and so on. And you never know about the residual values, especially with electric vehicles at this moment. That's why most EVs at the moment are going for the leasing. I think at some point they will also offer that, but the price itself, like the list price, way lower than like the comparing VW ID7 or the Mercedes CLA. And looking forward to your opinion, what you think here about the Togg T10F. If you have not seen our SUV review yet, here it is, the T10X, or check out then the ID7 review.